It's Sunday, November 23rd, and we actually do have a legit risk of some severe weather today in parts of western Texas. This is only a marginal risk, so nothing crazy, but still there is a risk of severe weather there. So definitely want to be prepared for that today if you're in that region. And then we have a larger, just general thunderstorm risk, which extends into parts of New Mexico and also pretty much encapsulating the entire state of Oklahoma as well. Now, this is actually only for a risk of hail. The SPC doesn't believe that there will be a chance of severe damaging winds or tornadoes, only hail. And this is very interesting. And now we're going to look at why that is. So here's how this is probably going to play out. We're going to have a front kind of moving in and overspreading the Texas-New Mexico border, probably around the early afternoon today. And then we're also going to have a warm front in front as well. This is also going to bring some kind of an area of some messy convection in front of this line, which will actually probably weaken it quite a bit. And then also this could increase the shear parameters as well, which is why I think there's a non-zero chance of seeing potentially maybe a couple of kind of very isolated areas of some severe damaging winds, but that's pretty much it. We're not really going to start to see our line mature until we go into the evening hours. Maybe we get a couple of discrete supercells in southwestern Texas. These are going to be elevated, carrying just mostly a potential for hail. Would not be totally surprised to see some hail in excess of 2 inches in diameter from these in southwest Texas, but from our main line in the earlier stages of this, maybe producing some hail around 1.5 inches in diameter, but I think that's going to taper off pretty quickly as it just turns into a messy line. Now, one of the reasons why I think there's a non-zero chance for tornadoes today is because we're going to have a lot of cells interacting with this line. Kind of when they get absorbed by this line, that does have a chance to kind of increase vorticity momentarily, maybe kind of rising the chance of a tornado to happen. But at the surface, it's going to be extremely stable, and this is also expected to be pretty elevated as well. So I think the chance of damaging winds and tornadoes is going to be very low, and maybe just a very, very low risk of just pretty kind of small hail even. I don't even think the hail with this is going to be very large. Now, what I do think could actually end up being one of the larger risks with this is going to be the amount of rainfall this brings. We can see that the rain is probably going to start around just south of Lubbock around the evening hours and is going to last for probably about 7 to 8 hours after that, with this line reaching DFW probably by the very, very late night hours, even Monday morning potentially. But by that point, this is just going to be a rainy squall. And here's what we're looking at with that threat for some flash flooding and excessive rainfall. Actually, our slight risk even extends all the way up into the DFW Metroplex. And in this yellow shaded area, you could see widespread 2 to 4 inches of rain with some isolated areas, even receiving up to 5 inches. So definitely think flash flooding could be in play for central Texas. And this is the synoptic setup. We're going to have a bit of a trough moving through with a lot of our forcing kind of coming up when we start to see a lot of our storms start to bubble up in the mid to early afternoon hours. And then it just kind of turns into an area where we're just going to see kind of some constant forcing helping to bring more storms up as we go. What I also want to point out is this is actually going to force up storms all the way into parts of New Mexico and also quite a bit of Oklahoma as well. And then we're also going to have those low pressure centers back there. So that's kind of why we're seeing those storms where we are today, or at least is a small piece of that puzzle. Now, looking more at the ingredients for our setup through a weather sounding, it's going to be pretty evident really quickly why we're only expecting maybe the chance for some small hail, and that's going to be because really the only thing present here for this severe storm setup is going to be some very favorable shear. Now, we do have some very favorable low-level shear, which is why I think there is a non-zero potential for maybe some damaging winds and even a tornado, especially with how our shear is kind of parallel to our line and how we're going to have a lot of cell mergers and interactions with our line. But why I think this is going to be very close to zero, even though it's not zero, is because we're going to have an extremely stable layer in the first 3 kilometers of the atmosphere and also almost no instability. This spells really just completely no for damaging winds and tornadoes, but our cloud base is going to be a bit higher, and we do have very good shear, bulk shear, probably around 40 to 50 knots. Definitely some updrafts being possible, and even if we have discrete cells, I think hail it's absolutely going to be in play, although I don't think it's going to be super duper large because we don't have a lot of cape. That's one of the key ingredients for hail, so probably just in that 1.5 to 2 inch in diameter range for that hail, and it's going to be a very conditional threat. You might not even see that much of it. But moving away from our severe weather threat and just kind of looking at this area down in the southern plains to other areas of the US, which might receive some precipitation, of course, up in the Pacific Northwest and northern Rockies. Very characteristic for this time of year. You're going to be receiving some more precipitation as well. Also, the Northeast, unsurprisingly. So, a couple of areas which we're not really surprised to see rain. We are going to be seeing rain and also maybe even some snow. Now, other areas where we could be seeing some rain, which we didn't completely cover in kind of our recap of our severe weather threat, it's going to be parts even back into Arizona, kind of trailing behind this low pressure system and up into parts of Colorado as well. Now, there is actually going to be a pretty decent severe weather threat with this same weather complex as we go into tomorrow. Maybe we could see a somewhat formidable squall form across Texas. But moving back to today, I want to take a quick peek at our snowfall totals. Now, this is something which hasn't really been super kind of shown so far in Colorado yet this year, but if you are in southern Colorado, I think that's about to change in a big way through the afternoon and tonight. If you are in southern Colorado, even the Telluride region, you are likely to see maybe even up to 20 inches of snow in the higher elevations than other areas, which are going to receive some more snow up here in the Northeast and also in the higher elevations in the northern Rockies and Pacific Northwest as well.